welcome back to the Movie Buffer. Tonight we're going to be discussing Somewhere in Time. Somewhere in Time is a 1980 American romantic fantasy drama film from Universal Pictures, directed by Jeannot Szwarc and starring Christopher Reeve, Jane Seymour, and Christopher Plummer. It is a film adaptation of the novel Bid Time Return in 1975 by Richard Matheson, who also wrote the screenplay. Reeve and Seymour fell in love and had a brief little relationship during the production. No surprises there. Reeve plays Richard Collier, a playwright who becomes obsessed with a photograph of a young woman at the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island in Michigan. Through self-hypnosis, he wishes himself back in time to the year 1912 to find his love with actress Elise McKenna, portrayed by Seymour, but comes into conflict with Elise's manager, William Fawcett Robinson, portrayed by Plummer, who fears that romance will derail her career and resolves to stop him. True love prevails, and Richard and Mckenna decide to be together forever, spending a beautiful day of making love and planning for the future. But disaster strikes, and Richard is ripped from 1912 and sent back to his own time. There are stark contrasts in the movie to reality, at least when it comes to Mackinac Island. Richard is on a road trip in the movie and just drives up to the hotel in his little convertible. That would never happen. There are no cars allowed on Mackinac Island, so you couldn't drive anywhere there. But I am sure that this detail was changed just for ease and flow of the story. The only time you see horse carriages is when you go back in time in the movie. Yet if you go to Mackinac Island now, in the present, that is all you will see. Horses and bicycles. Those are the only forms of transportation that is allowed, except for, of course, your 2 feet. Not even a motorized bike. But I am hoping in the future they may start allowing motorized bicycles, because watch any video on YouTube about a trip to Mackinac Island and you will see some very out-breath vacationers. So if you plan on visiting Mackinac Island, make sure you bring enough money for carriage rides, or maybe start working out a little bit before you go, because you're going to be doing a lot of walking, and that walking will be walking up hills and valleys. It's a lot. Somewhere in Time is the most romantic movie ever made, in my opinion. June 27th, 1912 is the date that Richard Collier goes back in time. He checks into the room 416 at 9:18 a.m. The Titanic sank on April 15th, 1912. I just thought I'd throw out some dates for my numerologists out there, just for nerdy tracking. Have you ever met someone and there was just something about them that you recognize, though you are sure you have never physically met, but there is something so familiar and you don't know what it is, but you know them somehow, maybe from another life, from another time and space? It's the ultimate deja vu, and this is kind of what this movie is really all about. I have always felt connected to the era of the turn of the century, the 1900s, such as my love for this movie, the Titanic, and my absolutely favorite series, Downton Abbey. I believe because I have existed in that time before, my most recent past life. So when I watch those shows and I watch this era, I feel like I'm watching my own past. I know, creepy, but that's how I feel. It's quite interesting. That moment when you first see the love of your life, do you know what that feels like? I do. Yet unfortunately, many do not. It is a rarity, but a blessed time of life. In this movie, this is what is occurring. Some people have never experienced this, so they don't understand what the attraction was. Like why, yes, she was a beautiful woman, but why did Richard go so insanely crazy? Where he's sitting in the room, he's going back and forth to look at the picture. It's kind of odd and creepy, but that's what he's experiencing. He's experiencing experiencing, remembering a time that in the movie really hasn't happened yet. Time travel is always spooky and crazy, and it's hard to follow. But this is what is going on in his mind. So it is very real to him. And this is why he takes off on this journey of time travel. Is he the one, William? Elise is asking her manager if Richard is the one who would destroy her and her career. Why is this significant? It is because William, her manager, knows that at some point in her young life, she will find and fall in love with her soulmate. And that man will have more control over her than any other human being on earth, especially him. So he warned her about his coming, so as to warn her about her impending doom of her career. Yet we can speculate that William had foreknowledge of a man coming into her life that would stop her from continuing her career. He possibly knew in part that he was from another time and she could not move forward with him, which would cause her to mourn and halt not just her career, but her own life. She was his only client, and he banked his whole career on her success. If she succeeded, then so would he. But if she failed, his career would also dwindle. That was their only connection. Business, not love, not lust. Possibly William seeked out a psychic on his own to foretell his future, and the soothsayer gave him a warning about a man who would impact his life forever as well. However, if he had allowed Richard to be a part of her life, then things may have been fine for him. But his fear of losing control of her entire life and career, he just could not let that happen, which caused the demise of both her love and his career. Yet in his rational mind, he knows this could not last. So let's talk about time travel. There are many theories. Special and general relativity. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity. It suggests that time is relative and can pass differently for observers in different reference frames. General relativity, which deals with the effects of gravity, also allows for the possibility of time dilation, where time can pass at different rates in different regions with different gravitational fields. This has been scientifically proven. So, in essence, can you travel through time? Yes. According to general relativity, you can. Wormholes. Wormholes are theoretical passages through space and time that could potentially connect two distant points in the universe. They have been considered as possible shortcuts for time travel. However, the existence of a traversable wormhole is purely speculative, and there are many theoretical and practical challenges to creating and using them. Another is time machines, which we hear about the most. Some physicists have explored the concept of time machines, which would be devices or structures that could allow for time travel. One such proposal is the Tipler cylinder, rotating cylinder of infinite length that might create closed time-like curves, theoretically allowing for time travel. However, these concepts are highly speculative and involve exotic and often unproven physics. Many worlds interpretations. Some theories of quantum mechanics, like the many worlds interpretation, suggest that every possible outcome of an event actually occurs in a branching multi-universe or multiverse. In this view, time travel could be seen as moving between different branches of the multiverse rather than changing the past in a single timeline. So you wouldn't necessarily go back in time, at least not back in your time, or forward in your time. You would just go to another dimension where things are different in that time. So whatever you change doesn't necessarily affect you, it affects that timeline. So if you came back to your own timeline, then things wouldn't have necessarily changed. And this is of course complicated in different movies, and this is one that was kind of used in Back to the Future. This was used in the series Sliders, and there's been so many different ways of depicting time travel in many different series, so it's quite interesting, the nuances, and sometimes they overlap. Like they'll use the many worlds interpretation along with a machine, along with creating a portal which is a wormhole. So sometimes they just mix them all together into one, and then that's their time travel. In this movie, Somewhere in Time, this theory is used. It's called time travel by thought, and it typically refers to the idea of mental time travel or mental time manipulation, where a person can mentally or psychologically revisit past events or project themselves into the future rather than physically traveling through time. This concept is often explored in science fiction and metaphysical discussions. It's important to understand that this notion is different from the traditional physical time travel theories. It's essential to emphasize the mental time travel is a fictional concept and has no basis in current scientific standing or understanding. While the human mind can reminisce about past experiences and imagine future scenarios, these processes do not constitute actual time travel, but rather are part of a memory, imagination, or cognition. So when Richard goes to his room in his present time, dressed up, removing all of the items of that day from the room and then only including items that could possibly be found in 1912, along with his clothes and everything, even down to the money, he lies on the bed and he is transported. But is he physically transported? Because if someone came into the room, would they still see Richard's body lying there? So, that's something, is interesting. I think he was actually transported to 1912, or, the universe around him changed into 1912. So that's the time and space around him changed, and he was able to interact. So if someone walked into that room, they would walk into an empty room. Time travel is one of those things it has to be looked at speculatively. You can look at it on a physics level, quantum mechanics level, and you can look at it on a spiritual level and how we look at time and how we experience it. So those are very interesting things about this movie. So you definitely, of course, want to include Somewhere in Time in the many time travel types of movies and discussions. Have you ever seen Somewhere in Time? It is an absolute classic and fan favorite. I have to mention the fandom around it. Each year, the Grand Hotel, ever since this movie's come out, the Grand Hotel has the Somewhere in Time weekend and is one of the most popular and special events during their entire season. Remember, Mackinac Island, it opens and closes. It closes, I believe, like in November. It closes. The island shuts down before the snow and ice falls, and no one is allowed, no one can actually come to the island once the lake freezes over. So it becomes quite literally a ghost town. The workers and people, who actually, employed on Mackinac Island usually leave about that time, and you'll have a skeleton crew of people still there to run maybe their own businesses or whatever, and it just becomes a regular little bitty town. So this event is like the last major event of the season, and it's perfect for fans who want to come and talk about cinematic secrets of this timeless romantic classic, get a chance to visit with other fans and talk and be a part of that whole special fantasy of the movie and the romance around it. People have actually gotten married during this weekend, so they can, of that type of romance. Fans come in costume at the cocktail receptions and costume promenade. Breakfast and dinner is included with this package. It's like a whole package that the hotel does. Guests can enjoy dining in elegant costumes in the main dining room, just like you would see in the movie. They actually play the movie. It's a whole event. I think it's a 2-3 day event, and it's just incredible. I've never been there. I would love to have gone. I wanted to go before Christopher Reeve died because I really wanted to see him, but I didn't go because I thought it was mostly a romantic thing, because you would hear mainly couples would go, because of course it's a very romantic thing. But I guess I could have went by myself, and I'm sure there's many people who go alone, or they go with their girlfriends or whatever. So you don't have to be in a romantic couple to attend this event. It's for fans. It's not just for couples. But Christopher Reeve did go. When he was alive, he would frequent this event and be there with the fans. Extras go, and they continue to go annually. Jeannot Szwarc still goes, and she still is present and everything. So it's just a beautiful event for the fans, and somewhat unique for a movie like this. And it's just the imagine of how powerful this movie was for so many people. So what are your thoughts about this most romantic movie? Have you ever traveled to Mackinac Island? An island that is truly standing still in time, which adds to the romance and magic of the movie and of the island itself. Just phenomenal. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. And wishing you a very loving peace, two fingers.